I'm here today with a very special person. Happens to be my sister, Diedre Alexander. And I wanted her to be with me today. I want to interview her because she's got an interesting story about coming to faith. And it's not a dramatic story. It's not like she's been selling drugs for 30 years and then she came to faith. But what I like about her story is it's just so real. And she has dealt with things that so many people deal with in coming to faith. But what adds an interesting perspective to her story is that she's been facing cancer as well. And so, Diedre, I want to thank you for joining me today for this interview.
I'm happy to do that. Happy to be here.
Last year, you told me when you were telling me how you came to faith, my initial response, immediate response was, oh, you've got to tell your story. And you said,
what story?
What story? Yeah. And I said, oh, Diedre, your story is what 95% of the people deal with, the things that you've struggled with, tried to overcome in coming to faith. And I think people need to hear that story. The dramatic stories are exciting to hear, but the real stories like yours is something that I really want people to hear. So that's why I asked you to do this.
Okay.
Could you just give me like a thumbnail sketch of, just to give context of your life, you know, where you fit in the world right now?
Well, I grew up in Bloomington, Minnesota, so I'm a Minnesotan at heart. But I hate the cold. And it took me a long time to figure that out, like, I don't know, 25 years or so. Now I live in Arizona full time, except for the summer when it's too hot, I come up here.
Okay.
And my background is kind of threefold. I spent quite a bit of time in education as a teacher, administrator, and also in business and theater. A lot of my life has been focused on my love for theater, and I wanted it to be my career, but it just never seemed to work. So it's a big part of me, but I derived my income through education and business.
So I've gotten, obviously, being your brother, I got to watch you through all these stages, and you found a lot of success in all those stages. But I want to narrow our focus today to hear about how you came to faith, because that's, like I said earlier, that's what I find so fascinating. So tell me, let's start back in when you were just a child. What was your view of God then? What was your spiritual experience back then?
Well, I was raised as a Catholic, and when I say raised, it was like, that's what I knew to say if people asked me, what religion was I? I answered Catholic, but I couldn't really tell you what that meant other than I would go to catechism, which was like Bible study, and I learned there a couple stories about God, but not very much. We did a lot of coloring, and one of the most prominent thing was this heart that I would make, and it was pink. So we'd fill it all in pink. And then the nun would say, well, take a black marker, and every time you sin, you hit the black marker on the heart. And but don't worry about it, because when you get those black marks, you can get them washed away when you go to confession. So I would confess my sins, and then I'd get my pink heart back again. So I had that, and I had, you know, that I loved God, and then I had a friar, and I loved my friar.
Okay.
So that was pretty much it.
Yeah. So and it's very simple nature. Your spiritual experience. It sounds positive.
It was positive. It's all I knew.
Right. So a lot of people, when they get to teenage years, certainly college, their faith often goes out the window. They might still believe in God, but as far as religions, faith, church, any kind of spiritual disciplines kind of go out the window. Did that happen to you at all?
I would say partially. I've always felt God in my heart, but it's been very, very personal. And, you know, it's just like between God and me. And I went away to school. I went to Michigan, in Kalamazoo, and I felt quite alone being out of my realm and not knowing anyone. But that was exciting too. That's one of the reasons I wanted to go. Plus, they accepted me.
Right.
And so I felt God with me, as I'd struggle. But then the friends I met were, they were all Catholic, this group. And they said, come to church with us. You'll enjoy it. We have a lot of fun. And I said, all right. And they were my friends, so that's where I went. And it was the era of hootenanny masses.
Okay. And
that spoke to me because I loved to sing. There's the theatrical side. And suddenly I was like, oh, I could do this. If church were this, I could do this. I get to sing. And I always felt God was with me.
Okay.
But then, I don't know, get in with a different crowd, and they didn't go to church, so I didn't go to church.
Sure.
It was like in the moment.
Yeah. We've, throughout our lives, we've been able to spend some different times together, and we often talked about faith. I came to faith when I was in college, so I would bring it up and we'd talk about it. But for you, for me, it was very concrete. For you, it was very vague. And it just never quite set. Why do you think that was? What was going on? How were you thinking about God, let's say in your 20s and 30s?
Well, it goes back to that personal relationship. Also because of the time, there was a lot of demonstrations going on. Vietnam War was going on. So there were a lot of religious, what I call zealots, in my face. Jesus saves. There was just too much demonstration going on for my comfort level. And when people would bring Jesus and religion and everything, you've got to do this, you have to do. I was like, no, that's not my relationship. And if that's what God is, no. Yeah. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but I can't do that. And so it turned me off. I just shied away from it.
So, and you were that way for a number of years. I remember you went to a Presbyterian church and became a member of that church for a little bit. And then you moved, and so that kind of drifted away. And so it remained vague. So what changed? Because now I would say it's concrete.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Well, one of the things I was looking for a church for that belonging, for that community. Because even though it wasn't a church that I belonged to when I did the hootenanny masses, it was a community, and we could talk. And I've always liked to go beneath the surface and talking. I like it when people are just real and can speak from the heart. So I thought I could find that in a church, and I did join another church, that Presbyterian church, because I thought that's what I was getting. But I also am a giving person, and if I'm not careful with the people I give to, I get sucked in, and I end up losing me to help them, and then I'm nowhere. And that's what was happening, is because I get excited, people take that and ran with it. So then I back off as well.
Yeah. So what brought you your faith? And it took really decades to make it more concrete. So what was the tipping point for you to suddenly go, oh, wait a minute, I think God is personal?
It had to be when I got sick, when I got cancer.
Okay. When was that?
In 2015. I take it back. It was really when Alex got sick.
Your husband? My husband.
That was the first time that I just felt this huge pull that you are not alone. You're not alone. And when that happened, I thought, if this ever were true, I would feel a strength. And I did. I felt a strength, and I prayed to God then to just let him open his eyes again.
Mm-hmm.
And then he did.
Yeah.
And he squeezed my hand as soon as he came to.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like this whoosh, of gratitude. I don't know what it was. I can't explain it.
Mm-hmm.
But that, if you want something concrete,
Right.
that was the significant moment that I have to say there was no question in my mind that God was with me. I was not alone. And whatever it was that, he still could die, but I wasn't alone.
Right.
And it wasn't, my prayer was not, please, make him live. My prayer was just open your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Just please open your eyes.
Sure.
And I received that gift.
Yeah.
So.
But out of that, then things started to kind of move forward.
Yes.
And
yes.
I think you encountered an old friend. Tell me about that.
I had, when I got sick, then again, I knew I wasn't alone. Mm-hmm. I trusted that because of the experience with Alex. I trusted that I wasn't alone.
And what kind of cancer did you have?
I have stage 4 colon cancer, so it's metastasized from my colon, and now it's everywhere, but at the time it just had gone to my liver.
And initially you thought
clavicle.
You had, 2 years to live?
Yes.
And that was 7 years ago?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So when I realized that I only had this short amount of time, I had to go back to my bucket list.
Mm-hmm.
And Alex and I started a bucket list years before that. This time, I looked at my bucket list and went, okay, I got to really prioritize. I'm on a short timeline here. And building a stronger relationship with God was on my bucket list.
Mm-hmm.
I had never read the Bible. I'd heard those few stories in catechism, and I thought, well, I better read the Bible if I want a closer relationship with God. I need to read the Bible. It's supposed to be the best book, right?
Now, you had told me before, you made many attempts at reading, and how did that go for you?
Well, at all.
Yeah.
I tend to fall asleep.
Right.
I didn't understand the language. Nothing connected for me.
So how did that change? Because it did change. It seemed to come alive for you.
Well, another friend who I told that was on my bucket list had said, there's a couple things I'll send you. Dummy's book of how to...
The Bible for Dummies?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And then the other one is The Message. And she said, read it from The Message and it'll help you. So that's what I did. I started reading it. I still was, I don't know how long it's going to take me to get through this. I ran into my friend from elementary school, high school. We were best friends. We had a 50th reunion, high school reunion, and I knew she was a Christian, and so I told her that's on my bucket list to read the Bible. That's one of the things I'm going to accomplish. And then before I left last summer, she said, I have an idea how we can keep in communication. Let's read the Bible together through Zoom. And I said, that's a great idea. I'd love it. We have such a great relationship that we were able to spark right away. Mm-hmm. And so we did. And we have been meeting every Thursday morning since then. So
how has it come alive? And are there specific ways that it's come alive for you?
Well, again, it goes back to my love of theater. Mm-hmm. I read the Bible out loud to the two of us. If I'm reading something out loud, I feel a much better connection.
Okay.
And I can hear it, and I'm multisensory in my learning, so I can hear it, I see it on the page, and then I feel it. And I would stop like every third sentence and say, all right, wait a minute. This is not making sense to me. And I had said to Diane up front, I'm probably not going to be a convert, so don't get your hopes up, but I do want to read this book. Mm-hmm. And I want to get through it. Well, our conversations just started getting deeper and more, philosophical. It was, we now are like, we can't wait till Thursday morning, mm-hmm. Because we get to talk about these things that if it doesn't make sense, then we talk through it. And as you know, because you're my follow-up on Thursday, if she feels like she's not explaining it so that I can connect, she goes, ask Remy about that one.
I do clean up.
Yeah, yes. So it became more real that way. And then I watched the movie The Chosen.
Right.
And again, a way that I learn and connect. It brought to life, it gave me something very concrete in terms of seeing the character of Jesus. And I thought, oh my God, I could follow that man.
Right.
I would wash his feet. I would be there, for he could count on me. And it was like, oh my God, I get this. And then every time we would read something, I go, oh my gosh, Diane, this just happened to me, and here's the answer.
Right.
And I would get so excited that here is a book that's been there my whole life, full of solutions to all of the problems I had. And I could have made so much better choices if I had understood that book instead of coloring in my little black marks on my pink heart.
So you have made it 7 years with your colon cancer, and the doctors, well, they've been wrong so far because you've made it longer than they expected, but the doctors really think now that you're not going to make your 8th year. So as you really wind down your life, and then you look back, how has your new faith helped you through cancer?
Well, the biggest thing for me is trust. I feel an incredible trust with God now, because things have unfolded beautifully in my life. I've gained so much that I'm so grateful for. And I've gained most of the things that I'm most grateful for through having cancer.
Yeah.
So the big thing that people ask all the time is, but how are you dealing with death? Well, I'm excited. Here's an opportunity for me to let go of all the responsibilities I've had for 73 years, many imposed upon myself. But I'm free of that responsibility, so I can do the one thing I want to do, and is to follow Jesus. Because that is the essence of what I've been fighting for. I want people to be kind. I want people to be loving. I think most of the problems in this world are happening because of egos getting in the way. And if we could just put that aside and just love, and that's what Jesus wants, so I can follow that, and I can help promote that in a much broader sense than what I'm able to do here right now. So when I wrap things up and take care of my family and my husband and people I love, I want you all to know I'm excited about my future.
Yeah.
And, as parents letting kids grow up, all you want is for them to be happy. And I can leave just honestly telling you, let me go with all your love, because I'm going to be very happy doing exactly what Jesus wants and what I want. I just want to worship.
Yeah. I got a couple more questions for you. One is, even before your faith got concrete, you took on the attitude that that cancer is not a curse. It's a blessing. It's a gift. You called it a gift. And that surprised a lot of people. So help me, and especially maybe other cancer victims watching this, help us understand how you can call cancer a gift.
I have people that get very angry with me
Sure.
when I say that because, well, you've never lost. It's like, I've lost a lot. But I do not do well around negativity. I am a, well, let's figure it out type of person. There's always a way. There's always an angle. If we're just quiet enough to think about it, we can get there. Anger, all that does is stop the thinking.
Right.
So we have to get past the anger and just look for what's positive in this. When I got cancer, I was flooded with writings and sayings and whatever. You can get this, you can do this, cancer can't do this to you and it can't do that to you. It has their poems written about what it can't. People angry that all of the horrible things about cancer, and I just backed off again. It was like, whoa, there's got to be something good in it. And so that's when I started looking at, okay, what have I received as a result? Well, priorities is huge. My priorities shifted from being a gatherer of things to being a gatherer of people. And instead of working on being more competent at something, I started working on my character and believing that rather than leaving money behind, I could leave good decision-making cues.
Yeah.
And if I do this right, then it gives you an idea of a different choice to make, which is another reason why I did my celebration while I'm still here.
Right.
Because it's positive. It's not a sadness. Again, I want people to be happy, that I'm happy. And so that's a celebration.
Right.
And the growth that I've made is a celebration that I want to share and say thank you to people for. So that's a gift. There's just so many things that have happened because of cancer.
Yeah.
That I love looking at it in terms of what it's done for me.
You've got a pin that says "I'm not dead yet," and that does. You do it because it creates a smile on people's face, but I think it also affects how you approach life. What does that mean for you as far as?
I'm not dead yet.
Yeah.
This is from one of my favorite musicals. Again, theater, from Spamalot. It's the opening song, and it's like, live every minute.
Right.
Because I'm not dead yet. And people don't like talking about death. And so that, of course, will put me in your face. Just, why not? We're all dying.
Right.
So what are we celebrating about that? Is let's talk about it and let's reflect. We have more moments together.
Right.
Let's take advantage of them. Well, why not now?
Yeah.
Don't sit in front of me and regret that we haven't spent more time together. Let's be together right now.
Exactly.
In the moment.
Yeah.
And hang on to that.
Last question. If you could go back and speak to 20-something, 30-something, 40-something Diedre, what would you want her to know? What was like, oh, if you could have only known this, what's that? What would that be?
It would be, hand me the Bible and say, you're going to face a lot of things in your future, and you're not going to know where to go. Or you may know where to go, but here's some affirmation that that's a good choice. I would have given me a Bible and said, don't wait. Read it right now. And read it every day. Yeah. Some days I just open it up and go, all right, what do we have today? And I'll read a paragraph and I go, oh my gosh, did that hit home?
Yeah.
That would have gotten me through a lot if I could hand my 20-year-old a book of answers. Who doesn't want a book of answers?
Right, right. Well, I told you last November that you had a story, and you didn't think you had a story, but now you've proved yourself wrong. You've got a story. So thank you very much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you for letting me know I have a story.
All right. And thanks for watching this.